meeting to order. You can take your seats.
Joe's good.
I'll call this meeting of the Board of School Directors to order. We'll begin with the flag salute. If you all please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mrs. Schweiger, can you go to roll call?
Good. Mrs. Elder.
Here.
Mr. Hauser.
Here.
Mrs. Kozar.
Here.
Dr. Laughlin.
Here.
Dr. Moffa.
Here.
Mr. Music.
Here.
Mr. Palmer.
Here.
Dr. Zorch. And Mrs. Mays.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is hearing visitors part 1. This item is set aside to allow members of the audience to address the board on any item on the agenda upon which we will be voting this evening. So does anyone in the audience wish to address the board on any item on the agenda? If so, please rise, come to the podium, and state your name. Okay, seeing none. We'll move to the solicitor's report with Mr. Mays.
For your consideration tonight is Resolution 177, student disciplinary matter, 3 of the 11-12 school year, which has previously been discussed. I recommend that you move on this resolution.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. We adopt resolution number 177. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, say nay. That passes unanimously.
And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols. Legislative report, Dr. Laughlin. Thank you, Dr. Laughlin. We'll move to finance with Mrs. Elder.
Thank you. I'd like to put together resolutions number 178, 179, and 180 and move for their adoption.
It's been moved and seconded. We adopt resolutions number 178, 179, and 180. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed say nay. This also passed unanimously.
And before we do the second resolution or the second matter of business in my section, I'd like to recognize in the audience 4 members of the Latrobe School Authority, Mr. Fisher, Mr. McGuire, Mr. Baumeister, and Dr. Leonard, and thank them for their service on the authority, and thank you for coming this evening. Thank you very much. And I understand, Mr. Nichols, that you want to slightly add something, I think is the way to put it, to the resolution, which for everyone in the audience, you have this resolution completely written out in your agenda.
Yeah, I'm not changing the debt resolution at all. I'm just reworking the introductory wording. And it'll say the following. Resolved that the Board of School Directors of the Greater Latrobe School District hereby approves and further recommends that the Greater Latrobe School Authority approve the debt resolution set out below. And that's just the introductory. Then, of course, the debt resolution is set out over the next 3 pages. And I would recommend a motion on the debt resolution.
But before we do that, I'd like to introduce Mr. Bob Ulmer and Mr. Tom Lynch, who are also with us this evening, and they're going to talk to us about the meaning of this resolution a little bit before we discuss it ourselves.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'm Bob Ulmer, for those who don't know me, and this is Tom Lynch. Let me pass out this information. are 15 copies, so take them as you see fit. The second item I'm passing out, just for your information, is a breakdown of all the costs that you see in the pamphlet that's entitled Summary of Bond Sale. I'm not too sure how many of you have been following our market in one way or another, but in the last 10 days, the market has just been absolutely terrible. And if you would turn to the page that's not numbered, first page with the chart. Your issue is approximately 8-year issue, and so we use the 5-year and the 10-year indexes to give you an idea of where rates are today. And you can see there to your far right how we've had this sharp increase in the last couple of weeks, and really in the last 7 days. The good news is that when we started talking to the administration about the needs for borrowing, we were talking to you last January of 2011. And so you can easily go back to that period of time, and it's very interesting that you can see that these rates were almost the highest in that right-hand side where they were 3.5%. So since that time, we have achieved all-time low rates. We have, unfortunately, a speed bump the last 7 days. It's been so hectic and frantic that we went out to the marketplace and with the issue this morning, and were unable to market any bonds other than 300,000. And then we changed the price and we went back out and were unable to market any additional bonds. So we had to make some decisions as to what to do, and it was my opinion, because I always like to think that I represent my issuer in the school district, and I said if it was up to me, I would be happy to tell the district to accept what we had on the table. And I said, however, that's not my decision to make because it's Janie Montgomery's money. It's being put at the risk. And it's not as if we're taking 30% or 40% of the issue and underwriting it. We're talking about 95%. So rather than chasing the market, which is known as going out and trying to change interest rates again and going out, when we know full well that the buying public sees rates somewhat going up and they're sort of sitting there, it's income tax time, we have bills to pay, it's, well, let's wait, no sense, we have no reason to be buying. So we came up with a little change and had one buyer give us a proposal for the last maturity. If you turn to page 2, this is your debt service schedule. It's probably easier to look at page 3, which goes long or sideways. Bond pricing. And they came in and made an offer on $1,500,000 in the last maturity. So that at that point, we had $1,500,000 committed at what they offered here and the $300,000 prior. So what we're proposing you today is to underwrite the issue that what you see on that page 3 with the yields ranging from 0.9 to 2.6%. And we will underwrite the remaining $8.2 million, and we will assume the risk that the market will stay the same or improve somewhat so we can sell the bonds. The other choice you have is to decline the bid, and we wait. And we hope that rates get better again. If rates decline again, just to give you an idea, if rates decline again 25 basis points or 1/4 percentage point, you're going to save approximately, overall, $150,000 in interest over 8 years. If rates continue to go up and we wait, don't know what's going to happen. The refundings give you an idea of how fortunate you are because you have this opportunity to do this wraparound in 8 years. I went out last evening to another school district on a $10 million refinancing, and the presentation was going to be at one time that you could save if you do this refinancing on a nearly 20 years long, not a 20 years long, $10 million school district. They could save $600,000 in interest by refinancing. And last evening it was $200,000. So they lost $400,000 of their savings, so they're obviously postponing because it's not enough to save. So on something like this short, I can't help recommend that you would consider, seriously consider this, rather than wait and hope that you were going to get back to where we were at the best rates in the history of the municipal market. And the only other example I give you is I went through this in 1978, where it was worse, where in 1978 rates were 7.5%. And school districts, I had a couple say to me, we're not going to borrow, we're going to wait. And they ended up borrowing at 8%, 8.5%, and even higher, because that's when the rates went up to 14 and 15% tax rate. So that was the beginning of chasing. And this could be a temporary blip, and it might not be. And if it weren't for the fact you're borrowing, 2.5%. But that's the factor. So what we're proposing is what you see on that third page with those interest rates and yield. And on page 4, we have the various averages. And you can see there the net interest cost of 2.33, the all-in true interest cost with all costs, et cetera, is 2.6. The average coupon is 2.22%. So again, looking at the chart, historically, very good rates. What does this mean if you turn all the way back to the attachments? I call them the attachments, where you have the summary of your existing debt in the blue boxes. If you turn to the second and then the last page of this handout, you see there your new $10 million issue sitting in the middle of that page. And this is how we had always talked about structuring the issue, where you can either use some of the proceeds or the capital reserve to help you ease into the no millage requirement. And once again, you have no millage requirement. You have the same term except for the slightly higher payments in 2020 and overall. But again, it requires no millage increase.
Well, if I could just summarize real quick, just for the entire board, just to make sure everybody understands that when we spoke back in February, the rates were, hovering around 2%, which were very, very low, almost all-time lows. They've bumped up slightly, but they're still very, very, very competitive rates. If you were to look at the chart that Bob provided you in his packet, you'll see that those interest rates are still very competitive. By issuing this bond tonight, there still is no millage impact in the budget process. So other than the rates slightly increasing, there's really no change in the status of the proposal. Can I summarize that?
Perfect.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions, or is there anything that we can possibly address? Clarify a little bit more?
In fact, I'll give you one last insider thing here. It makes no difference if you wait. I even said to the trader, I said, well, what if we asked the district if we could put more discount in, our fee to give us some more help should the market not turn? He said, it makes no difference. He said, I have no idea right now. I have no idea what we need. I have no idea what I would even want to go out with more interest rate to the buying public, because people are just sitting there. So to ask for another dollar or something makes no sense. So just to give you an idea that this is how chaotic it is at the moment. And people are just on the sidelines. Treasury rates went up a half a percentage point. 10 years went up at least a half a percentage point in the last week, and the 20-year went up over a percentage point. So our market follows that way. I'm not going anywhere, so I'll turn it over to Mr. Lynch for his little presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. Your solicitor summarized the debt resolution pretty well in that really if you want to accept the proposal from Bob's firm on the bond issue, you would be entering into a supplemental lease agreement along with the authority where your lease rentals would pay the debt service on the bonds. And so really what the debt resolution does is authorize entering into the supplemental 14th lease agreement and authorizing the appropriate officers to do everything necessary to have a bond issue. So in summary, that is the debt resolution, and I'm here to answer any specific questions.
Questions?
We're not that far off the number we talked about. We're there.
Yeah, we're
I'm
the
pretty
rates are
comfortable with
still very good.
I'm very comfortable with this. You know, I've been, Mr. Honor will remember, I've been on the board since the board first hired him. And we've been very fortunate. When we look at what has happened, what our ability to wrap things around has happened, and we've taken advantage of all of those opportunities. This is still, when you look at the chart you gave us, it's still, now it's still a good time. And I really feel that we would be doing a disservice to the taxpayers of this district if we were not to take advantage of these rates while we know what our buildings need and what our district needs.
Anything else? Have anything to say? Question? Comment?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'm ready to move for adoption of resolution number 181.
It's been moved and seconded, we adopt resolution number 181. Yes, we'll do a roll call on this vote. Mrs.
Mr.
Morgan?
Hauser.
Yes.
Mrs. Kozar.
Yes.
Dr. Laughlin.
Yes.
Dr. Moffa.
Yes.
Mr. Music. Mr. Palmer.
Yes.
Dr. Zorch. Mrs. Elder.
Yes.
Mrs. Maines.
Yes. Motion approved unanimously. Thank you very much.
If we could be excused, the school authority is going to continue the scheduled meeting. We'll go into the next room and also pass the resolution. I just want to publicly say thank you to the school authority. They're a very solid second set of eyes for this board and are very, very involved in the issues of the construction and the construction projects. And sometimes we wonder, is the authority still a good way to go? And we've considered that over the years. And both legally and personally, I think we can all agree that these gentlemen have done a good service, many of them many years with the school district, but others as community representatives coming on. And we have an awfully good time working with them.
I think there's a lot of wisdom sitting back there.
You bet. You bet. So if it's okay, we'll be excused and
Certainly.
go do our business.
adoption of resolution number 182 to accept the donations and grants, which we can go over after the second.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. We adopt resolution number 182. Any discussion on that motion?
Yes, you can see that there is money involved, but there are also spring bikes from Excel Health. There is $2,255 from the Community Foundation of Westmoreland County through Katrini Rafferty's participation in the Educational Improvement Tax Credit Program. $2,000 from Ken Meadow Foundation for the Senior High School Bots IQ team, and $1,000 from Sean Bolish through the Wells Fargo Community Support Campaign directed to improvements to the sound system at Mountain View Elementary's gymnasium. And those are all wonderful things, much needed by the school district, and we are so grateful. We can't say how important these things are.
Any other discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed say nay. Passes unanimously.
I'd like to put together resolution number 183 and 184. The first is to appoint First National Bank as school district treasurer, and second is to approve creating a facsimile signature agreement with the First National Bank so that they can accept money from the district. So I move for adoption of both of those.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We adopt resolutions number 183 and 184. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed say nay. Those pass unanimously.
And finally, I will move for adoption of resolution 185 to accept an agreement on electricity procurement, which was discussed last week with the board members.
It's been moved and seconded. We adopt resolution number 185. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed say nay. That passes unanimously.
And I want to remind the members of the Finance Committee that the next meeting will be Wednesday, April 4th at 10 a.m. in the Central Administration Building. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Elder. Education and planning, that would be me. And we'll start with the students, Carmelina and Mitchell. Welcome this evening.
Okay, hi everyone. I'd like to begin our report by congratulating a few of our newest state champions. Lucas Bureau won the 200 free in the state meet at Bucknell just recently, and Tyler Ross won the state, he's the indoor track state champion in the 400 meters, and Jeff Elam also won the 600 meter state track indoor meet. And also, Ty Leidig just broke a school record set by Ryan Goodman for most career wins. And here's Mitchell for a recap on the success of the Fuller-Palooza and the newest school meet.
As I said earlier, the student council put on an event, Fuller-Palooza. It was sort of like what the Rock Down is, only none of us had experienced a Rock Down, so it was a new experience for all of us. But it was a huge success. We had around 40 teams participating, doing events such as basketball, badminton, volleyball, Dance Central 2, cornhole, ping pong. And it was organized all by student council, run by student council. But it couldn't have been done without a couple of people. Mrs. Hauk, Mr. Marker, Mr. Lacasio, and Mr. Kralik, the phys ed department. Without them, this event would not have been possible. So special thanks to them for really making this happen. Another special thanks to the High Post and to the Greater Latrobe Key Club. They also volunteered and worked events and we work at the concession stand, and we're a great help as well. And I think we made it a huge success, and I hope that it continues for years to come. The next thing I'd like to bring up is the Greater Latrobe Senior High School musical, Children of Eden, which is coming on this Friday and Saturday at 7:30. Well, I wanted to get a speaker to come in and speak about it, but right now they're currently in Tech Week, which means that they're practicing from 3:45 till 9 o'clock, so they're really getting into they're really preparing for this now. But I was told it was a family-friendly show. They have great special effects, so everyone loves special effects, so that's great. And it's involving Adam and Eve and Noah's Ark, so it's something that everyone's familiar with, and apparently they parallel each other. And student tickets will be $8, and adult tickets will be $12. So I hope everyone can attend. Thank you.
Thank you both. Nice report. I will move for adoption of resolution number 186, permission to host the 2012 Pennsylvania Music Educators Association Senior High Honors Choir Festival.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We adopt resolution number 186. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? That passes unanimously. I also move for adoption of resolution number 187, approval of the out-of-state student trip for the young engineers to go to Ohio on Thursday, March 20th.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We adopt resolution number 187. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? I will bundle resolutions number 188 and 189. They are to approve tuition students, one for the 2011-2012 school year, and the rest for the 2012-2013 school year. So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We adopt resolutions number 188 and 189. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? That also passes unanimously. I also move for the adoption of resolution number 190 to approve the formation of a senior high school women's choir.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We adopt resolution number 190. All those in any discussion? I think this is a very nice thing for the high school. I'm glad we're approving that. I hope we approve it. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? That passes unanimously. I also move for the adoption of resolution number 191 to approve physical therapy contract for 2011-2012 as we discussed last week.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We adopt resolution number 191. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? That also passes unanimously, and that ends my report. We will move to property and supply with Mrs. Kozar.
Yes, we'll have, as you can see under your agenda, we'll have an opening of bids for the 2012-13 general school supplies, award that in April. And our next property and supply meeting is Wednesday, April 4th at 2:30. Those are all the change. So, please notice that. As we move on, I'd like to move for the adoption of resolution 192, the hold harmless agreement for the American Cancer Society's Relay for Life at Memorial Stadium, June 22nd.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We adopt resolution number 192. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed say nay. That passes unanimously.
I'd like to move for the adoption of resolution number 193, permission to advertise for HVAC maintenance at the Central Avenue building.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We adopt resolution number 193. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Say nay. That passes unanimously. Thank you, Mrs. Cozart. And we'll move to student activities and recreation. Dr. Laughlin. Okay, our athletic committee meeting is tomorrow night at 6 at Mark's office. And the winter season recognition night is the following Wednesday, March 28th at 7.
Motion to report our state champs that they've reflected on went to the swimming championships. Dr. Brano, we had Lucas won as a 200 as a state champion and finished 4/100ths of a second from being a two-time state champ. I mean, it was literally touch sitting there watching it. It was grueling to watch that finish that close. We also had Kayla Owens with 2 top 5 medals, female swimmer, and also the relay of Kayla and Gina DeFrancisco, Maddie Hoops, and Monica Swinski also placed 8th in the state. Kim Sangia was 12th in diving, and of course in wrestling we had Ty Leidy, 5th in the state, and Zach Samaski, 8th in the state. So I'm going to wrap up their 2 weeks of the winter season, brought in a lot of state medals in those 2 sports, and hopefully we reflected on Tyler and Jeff that in April, as I've done in the past, we'd like to maybe have our state champions be recognized but they just got home on Sunday, so I want to try and Tuesday night right away, give them time to bring them here in April. That's it.
Thank you, Dr. Walker. Community Relations, Dr. Zorch.
Move for the adoption of resolution 2011-2012, authorized letter of support to the Latrobe Community Development Commission's DCNR grant.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We adopt resolution number 194. Any discussion? All those in favor of adopting the resolution say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed say nay. That passes unanimously. Intermediate liaison, I will move for the adoption of resolution number 195 to approve the Westmoreland Intermediate Unit budget for 2012-2013.
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Kozar. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Nay. That passes unanimously. And that's all I have for anything else for intermediate unit. Mrs. Kozar, the EWCTC Joint Operating Committee? No. Thank you. Mrs. Elder, Board Policy, PSBA Liaison?
Yes, I'd like all the board members to check out the enclosures in your folder this evening. You all have a report of what PSBA has done for you lately, and a couple of brochures, and there's a lot of information in these. They're worth your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Elder. Transportation, Dr. Malfa?
The only thing is, I'd like to remind the board that on next Wednesday, March 28th, at 4 p.m. in the athletic office, we'll be taking a look at some new transportation software, so if anybody's interested. Talk to Mr. Mears, if we have to move it, we can move it to that, and then we good enough.
And we can also maybe move it to the senior high conference room, because they have a big screen that we can pull down. And I talked to Mrs. Plannis before the meeting about getting some information, highlights in this company that would project up there. So you kind of go through a little slideshow of the new company and see exactly.
Are we moving to the?
Well, we can. That's what I said. If there's 3 or 4 people, we can just do it at our computer in my office. But if we're going to have 8 or 9, we thought we'd get a lot of people just put it up on a bigger screen so not everyone's hovering around this little laptop trying to see it. That's all I'm saying. If I know by Tuesday. Right. Well, if somebody calls by Tuesday and says, hey, I'd like to see this, and we have enough interest, we'll just move it down to get a bigger screen, is what I'm saying, so everyone can see.
Thank you, Dr. Malfa. Technology, Mr. Palmer?
Thank you. No report tonight. Tomorrow we have a meeting Tuesday, April 3rd at 4 o'clock in the admin building.
Thank you. Superintendent's recommendations, Mrs. Swigert.
I'd ask the board to move on resolution number 196, the 6 resignations that are listed on your agenda.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt resolution number 196. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? That passes unanimously.
I'd ask the board to move on resolution number 197. The names are actually listed on the top of page 12. These are substitute personnel that we'd like to add.
Second.
We moved and seconded that we adopt resolution number 197. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? That passes unanimously.
And last is resolution number 198, which is the support personnel appointments. Please note the one change. The hourly rate for the part-time 4-hour secretary at Mountain View is listed at $8 an hour. It should be $9.10 per hour.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. We adopt resolution number 198. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Thank you.
And you can read the few announcements there. Also, the elementary art show is going on, as you can see around you. So before you leave this evening, if you take an opportunity to look at all of the art displays, they're from all 3 of the buildings. Each of them have an opening night, so to speak. Last night was Bagley, Mountain View, thank you. And Wednesday and Thursday night are LES and Bagley in no particular order.
Thank you, Mrs. Swiger. Hearing and visitors part 2 is the opportunity for anyone.
Could I just mention that under other business, I'd like to remind all the board members about the National Honor Society induction, which is Tuesday the 27th at 7:30. And if you will all recall, there was a slight glitch last year in getting out invitations to the board. And since they all arrived in a timely fashion, it certainly is a worthwhile way to spend the evening, and it's a good thing to do.
Thank you for the reminder. Anybody else have anything to bring up under new business? Okay, back to hearing and visitors part 2 is the opportunity for anyone in the audience to address the board on any subject. If you wish to address the board, please come to the podium, state your name and address.
Christy Kane, 230 Sussex Way in Greensburg. I just want to publicly thank Mr. Calm for signing up the students for the upcoming Pittsburgh Regional Science and Engineering Fair, which will be held at the Heinz Field a week from Friday. There are 4 students from Mountain View Elementary participating. The woman in charge at Carnegie Science Center said she's happy to give tours to any superintendent or principals or whoever wants to come. Just in case more schools want to join next year. There are 1,100 students participating next week, over 23 counties. And at the high school level, there's over $1 million in scholarships given away. And it's from 6th grade through 12th grade. So thank Mr. Calm.
Thank you for sharing the information. Would anyone else wish to address the board this evening? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved by Mr. Palmer. Do I hear a second? Seconded by Mr. Hauser. All those in favor say aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you for your time this evening.